Good afternoon. I'm back. Christa McKay, Collections Manager at the Marietta History Center. You may have remembered in our previous History Loves Company, we were the Marietta Museum of History. We've changed our name. Still going to provide you guys with the great content that you love through History Loves Company, through our exhibits, through our programming, all this great stuff. But you might have heard that in this year, 2022, History Loves Company was awarded Best in Cobb's through the Marietta Daily Journal, the best virtual programming. So thank you guys for voting for us. And with that award, we were like, we got to come back. We got to bring in a new season. And what a better way to bring in a new season with a Target and their Chick-fil-A's over there. I mean, that's where I would celebrate, right? Is Target and Chick-fil-A. Now, you may be wondering why I'm by myself. Where is Amy? I decided that I could not have her with me anymore because she keeps distracting me in all these cemeteries. I need to focus. So I have somebody else with me today. Don't worry, Amy's in the office. She's fine. She'll join me again. But yes, we are partners in crime. But many of you don't know that there's actually a third person that's involved in this a lot of times. And I'll bring her in a minute. I'm just going to keep the tension. You're going to wonder who it is. But I'm actually standing in a cemetery, and I'm following the directions from the first 100 years written by Sarah Gober Temple. In the early 1930s, she went around throughout in the entire Cobb County finding the white cemetery. She does say that. And today's adventure takes us to Mount Beulah Cemetery. And normally we would start at the Marietta Square by the History Center and then make our way over. But this stop is legitimately like down the street from my house, and I wasn't going to go to work and come back. It wasn't going to happen. So here are our directions for Mount Beulah Cemetery. On Shallowford Road, period. That's Shallowford Road. At the crossing of Sandy Plains and Shallowford Roads, 8.5 miles from Marietta, you turn right for 1/10 of a mile, walk up slope through the woods on right to cemetery. To be honest, these directions are still spot on. And you would never ever guess that there is a little cemetery here, but there is. The Target is that way, the Chick-fil-A is there, the intersection is way back here. This whole area is super developed, but this little cemetery is here. It is fenced off. It was not locked, so that's why we were able to come in. If it is locked, it is raining. That's what happens when I film. So it is open to the public. Just be very careful when you come in. If it is locked, not to. So I'm going to bring in my guest in just a second during these. Okay, so we had to stop for half a second because it did start to rain, but obviously you guys didn't see any of that. Thank goodness the Target was there so we could enjoy the Target for a few minutes. But as I read with Sarah's book, again, her directions from 90 years ago are spot on. It's just past the corner of Sandy Plains and Shallowford. Granted, Sandy Plains and Shallowford did not look like this. And I would even say it didn't even look like this when I moved here in like 1990. So it's very, very different. But I really did not know that this cemetery was here until maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I've come in here a couple of times, but this was like my first time really walking it, really researching it. But let me, before we get started, I keep saying we, but you're only seeing me. I said Amy's not here, but this person who's sheepishly walking up.
Hello.
This is Anna Monroe. She is one of our museum assistants, but she has been working with Amy and I for, 15 years on and off.
Off and on. It'll be 15 in December.
Okay.
Nice and long. Well over a decade.
That's okay. It's okay. So our social media and a lot of our programming is what Anna is involved in. So if you're liking what we're doing on social media, give her a shout out because she's doing a great job. All right. So she's a little nervous. So I know you guys will be very, very nice. We're very laid back. You already know that. I teach Amy on these, okay? So
Yeah.
don't worry. You don't have to fill in any sort of information. What I'm teaching everybody, I'm going to teach you at the same time.
Sounds good.
But you're going to be the voice for the people and ask questions.
I'm going to ask the questions because I have all the questions.
You do have all the questions. So your first question, because I'm a mind reader, is what is this area called? Right? That's your first question. It is your first.
Yeah, it is my question.
Okay.
What is this area called?
So I said the cemetery is called Mount Beulah. And if you go back and you look at the records, newspaper, things like that, Mount Beulah was a Baptist church. But it was also called, the area was called Mount Beulah. It was also called Roswell, which you know very well.
Yep.
It was called, per Franklin Garrett's work, Morris Crossroads. And that was meaning the Morris family. There's a number of Morrises. One was a mayor in Marietta at one point. But Morris Crossroads, I think, is actually a little bit more towards Post Oak Tritt. If you're going towards down Sandy Plains and where the post office is down there, that kind of area. But I think
not too far.
Not too far, yeah.
But definitely not right here.
No, not right here.
Yeah.
Another newspaper area term I see is Leonard, but I don't really know anything more about that. But the one that Franklin Garrett then says in his 1935 work is now called Mountain View, and Mountain View would be spot on. I'm gonna, if you hold that for me. All right, you're gonna see the cemetery, but Mountain View School, the school, would be kind of behind the Target, but where is my finger? Oh, there it is, like that area back there. The old school was there, and the new school is closer. See, Anna, that's the other game Amy and I play is, where do I put my finger?
Yeah.
So,
where does it go?
Where does it go?
Yeah.
Okay, so does that make sense? Like
It does.
Mountain View, all that kind of stuff?
Mountain View, the library,
All of
that
that
is right here.
is all of it. Now, the question is, what mountain?
Oh, that's true. I don't know. I was assuming.
I'm thinking it's Sweat Mountain.
Do you? Okay.
Because there is a Sweat Mountain Park not far from here. I'm thinking it's Sweat Mountain. Maybe Blackjack, but I don't think it's Kennesaw.
I think that's too far.
I think so too. I think you got to go farther down Shalford back towards Canton Road to be able to see Kennesaw Mountain. So I'm thinking Sweat, maybe Blackjack, but those would be the two that I would guess. So Anna, can you show them the color of my folder for this go round?
Yes.
Usually it's a red folder. Sometimes it's blue. This time we have
orange.
Very, very bright orange. Because if you come here to this area when Franklin Garrett came, for example, in August, this area is covered. I wouldn't walk through here.
I mean, it's a wooded area.
See, look at how, and there is a group that has adopted this cemetery, so they're doing the best they can, and actually they've done a really good job. They've kind of laid out some pathways, they've fixed some stones, they've cleaned some, but yeah, and there's one more behind us, but it's pretty small. It's not a huge property, but again, it was tied to a church.
Yeah.
What was your observation going to be? I
was
interrupted
just going to say that, like you said, they created this nice perimeter pathway all the way around, and a nice little windy one getting to the cemetery.
Yeah.
And then in between, they've also created rows where you can walk along instead of having to walk through or be afraid that you're walking through any of the stones if you don't want to.
Yeah, because there are a number of what I would say field stones. Amy and I have talked about field stones in various other ones. And I should remind everybody two things. One, stars are actually enabled. I think everybody should give stars to Anna for putting up with doing one of these with me with legitimately, she read the stuff today. Because again,
currently reading. I
was like, don't worry, I've got it. So if you like to give stars then provide money for this programming and other programming that the museum does. But there was a second thing, but I got so excited about the stars, I don't remember what the second thing was. I'll get to it eventually. It actually got very sunny. So it was raining and sun. It's a whole weather day here.
It's weather in Georgia.
It is weather in Georgia.
It's weather in Georgia that just doesn't want to cooperate.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is, again, I have done the research. One, because that is what I really like to do. Two, because it does take a lot, and I've got a little bit more of the knowledge on the resources, so I can move a little bit quicker. There are very interesting connections back to downtown Marietta from here, because
which is surprising.
Yeah, we're about, she says 8.5 miles, but that seems really short, but it feels very long when you drive it. So there are connections back to downtown Marietta, which I'll talk about too. But there on Sarah's records, I believe she's got, how many does he have? I normally write it on the top, but I didn't do that.
14?
He's got 14. She actually has 15. So they were going around at the same time. Sarah around 1930, 1931. Franklin Garrett, 1935. And also, I love Franklin Garrett for this one reason.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what it is?
Oh, it's his penmanship.
Look at this.
It's so clear.
Look at how neat. I know it's backwards to us, but don't worry, it's fine for me. But look at that. If it's backwards to you, then you guys can just learn to read backwards. But it's very neat, very tidy.
I would hazard to say that even reading it backwards, you can still read it.
Oh, you could still read it, yeah.
Because it's just beautiful penmanship, just perfect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he did this cemetery on one page. This page is Gresham, which we have not gone to yet. But the one person he does not have that Sarah had was a child named Oscar Wells, which would have been the first burial that she could find in 1875 was the first one. There could be earlier ones than that, but they have no carved stone with that information. And then death records are very tough pre-war and even slightly post-war. So Mount Beulah, I'm going to say this many times, but repetition is a good thing. Mount Beulah was a Baptist church. I don't have the exact location, but if we're figuring this is their churchyard, it would either have been...
And the road's right here.
Probably, but you know what? Okay, let's play this out for a second. If the church, Mount Beulah Church, moved sometime between 1920 and 1930, and it moved to the area closer towards Rocky Mount Elementary School and Kemp Cemetery, which again I have not done yet, this road would have already existed.
Yeah.
So I doubt the church would have been, or potentially right where the road is. I'm wondering if it might have been kind of where there's a parking lot here, or right side, or in front of us, and the churchyard was behind.
Yeah.
I think that might, because she says turn right and go up a wooded slope. If this was the wooded slope or something like that, maybe the church was here behind us. Yeah. Hold on, let me show you guys around again. I'm wondering if the church was maybe where this parking lot is, or maybe this area, because the Chick-fil-A and Target didn't exist at that point, versus right next to the road that's right here. Oh, sorry guys, that was a little fast, but oops, sorry again.
And we decided...
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Yeah. I want to be proven wrong. I want to know where this church was. I don't have any records, don't have any pictures, none of that.
There's no plots or census records or anything like that.
No. So, and the last burial, if the earliest was 1875, the last one is like 1920. No.
You have it.
I do have it. 1931. But then the 1931, but there was a gap between 1924 and 1931, probably when the church was moving. And so the last gentleman, who is Mr. Stell, if I have that right. No, not Mr. Stell. Mr. Watson is right here. His wife was already here, so he was planning to be buried here anyway. So yeah, we have a church that no longer exists, but we still have the graveyard. We're going to talk about the people in just a second, but it's a little warm, so I'm going to stop and take my jacket off and then get back to it. Okay, so we moved locations just so you guys can get a better idea of how everything is spread out, because again, it's very tight. I would say everything is based per family, But this is one of those places where the family marry into each other, and so they're all family pretty much. Nothing gross, okay? I'm just going to say that.
Nothing like your brother, sister's cousin.
I know Amy.
I was kind of thinking, like, is it a brother, sister, cousin?
No. But
ordeal?
you do see a brother-sister marry a brother-sister. But they're not, but again, okay, let's think about it again, where we are located.
Yeah.
This would have been highly rural. I mean, like, very few people.
Yeah.
So the dating pool is not going to be very big. And where is one place that you're going to potentially find somebody?
Social gatherings.
So
Churches,
social gatherings.
social gatherings. Yeah.
And that was the other thing we were going to mention is I think a part of the location that made this appealing for a cemetery is because there is a water source. There is a creek and stuff behind these graves. There you go. Oh, see, they told you stuff
right
like that
here.
way. There is a water source. So yeah, you do have that. There's actually some wells that are covered. I showed Anna those. I had never noticed those before. But yeah, so there's wells. So you have a water source for baptism. And then you have a graveyard for death. That's how church works, right?
Yeah. Cycle off.
That's how it works. So you have families marrying into each other. Here are my pencil notes. Hey, I think my handwriting's pretty neat, like Franklin Garrett. I mean, I think I did pretty well.
I think it's really legible. It's not my bubbly.
No, it's not Franklin Garrett neat with like a full. I should get a ledger.
That would make it.
These are. I ripped these out, so I did actually have a ledger. But you see, for example, let's go with one family that's buried here, the Jacksons. You have 2 children from Jephthah Jackson, who I'm going to show you his grave in a minute.
I was about to say, can you spell that?
Yes, because I can read it. Jeptha. And I said, how do you pronounce that? She goes, Jephthah. Biblically speaking, though, it would be spelled Jepthth. So that's where the Jephthah comes from.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I did Google that. I did. So Jephthah and his wife, Martha Power. Have you ever heard of Power's Ferry?
That sounds familiar
Does
around
sound
here.
familiar.
Yeah.
That she is a
Might drive it every
power
once in a
of
while.
Power's Ferry.
Interesting.
Yeah, so she
Over
goes
here.
way back.
Yeah.
A lot of her family, the Power family, is buried way more East Cobb than where we're at right now. But Jephthah and Martha marry. They have 2 children that survive adulthood, William Fletcher and Mary. William marries a woman named Lucy Wells, and Mary marries a man named Theodore Wells. So brother-sister marry a brother-sister.
So not weird.
Not weird.
Not weird.
But then your cousin's your cousin.
I was about to say you got double cousins.
You do have double cousins.
Yeah. Which
But-
just means your family is a little bit smaller.
It is, exactly. Don't worry. They had each of them seemed to have a good number of kids. So it helped, So William Fletcher and his wife Lucy. The first 2 burials here are children, and I believe they are Williams and definitely Carrie is Williams, but I believe Oscar is Mary and that's right. Franklin forgot it in his.
Yeah, you can't look at his.
I can't look at his. I think Oscar was actually Theodore and Mary's. So they each had children first children die young. So
Which is
not unusual.
not unusual at the time.
No. So William, or Fletcher, I'm going to call him Fletcher because that's what the newspaper said, and I like Fletcher better. I think it's a cool name.
We like Fletcher.
It is a good. Yeah,
Fletchers are really
good
good.
name. They have Carrie, Mary Elizabeth, William, Annette, Maddie, and another son named Jephthah. Again,
I'm gonna have to think about that one
It-
every
it's-
time you say it. Like,
it is a tough one. And then Mary and Theo have Reynolds, Oscar, there we go, there's Oscar, Theodore, Maggie, Otis, Thomas, and Eddie. Lots of kids.
yes.
So let's go back.
And Oscar was the only one that didn't survive to adulthood.
No,
Okay.
there's a story on that.
Oh, I
Excellent
stumbled
question.
onto a story.
Excellent question. All right, so let me turn the graves around. I'm not turning any graves around.
No, we're not.
No, I don't do that. So if we look, I'm going to zoom in, guys. If you look there, the one to the left is Carrie, the child. The one that has the crack in the center and the lettering has been blacked in is William Fletcher Jackson. So Carrie dies before the father, but William Fletcher dies in 1888, August of 1888. The next week, his father, Jephthah, dies.
Do we know how?
Jephthah had dropsy.
What's dropsy?
I forgot to write that down.
Okay.
But I feel like it's a really good 20th century, who knows, 18th, 19th century disease.
I do like those disease, like, I don't
Dropsy
like
or...
you don't hear them anymore.
No, you don't hear dropsy.
No.
But it says Mr. J.C. Jackson died suddenly at his residence near this place, that they call Roswell, of dropsy. He was buried at Mount Beulah Church with Masonic honors, and his only son, W.F. Jackson, died in Atlanta and was buried at the same place the Sunday before. It does not say what Fletcher died of. See, look, I highlighted it, and it only has 3 lines. So it doesn't say anything. It just says only son and was buried. Again, I don't have a death record. You hold that
like
for
what
a
he
sec.
was doing in Atlanta.
People can go to Atlanta. It's okay.
That's true.
Let me show you Jephthah's with the Masonic. So
Yeah.
somebody has very, very kindly cleaned it. And it's that one right there.
It's clean and legible.
It is very, very nice. Very, very good. So, yeah. And then you can see just beyond it, there's, hold on, here, we're going to play that game. There it is. That's his footstone.
You see the JCJ. It was hard to see on the video, but
It does say
the
JCJ.
the footstone
J.
says JCJ.
Sorry.
So his initials.
Oh, wonky right here. We're a little tilty. Hold on.
We are. I think it's the grounds.
Sure. Sure, it's the ground. And it's also my camera, but that's okay. You guys can just tilt your head a little bit. So yeah, when you're coming to cemeteries, remember, oftentimes it's not a tombstone, it's a footstone. So don't be counting that as another person. Count it as one person. Very, very important. Because there's a lot of footstones here.
This one does have not an abnormal amount,
No,
but
I mean,
a significant portion
pretty much everybody
of the
has.
first people have them.
Pretty much everybody has one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have his, we have them. Well, which one did I highlight right there?
Miss Fanny, wife of J.M. Watson.
We're going to go over there in a minute because that stone is kind of, they're the only Watsons and it's over by itself. But again, you have families who are going to be buried together. So we discussed Jephthah, we discussed Fletcher. The daughter, Mary, who had married Theo Wells.
Oh, yes.
Theo is actually not here, and I'll explain that in a minute. Mary dies after giving birth to the 7th child, Eddie. So they lost Oscar, who was their second. Oscar, and then Eddie. She died in childbirth. She is here with a stone, and then Eddie has a little footstone kind of right next to her. So we're going to do one more. Let's see.
But it's definitely odd in that she's in the family
in there,
plot.
And then Eddie's is that little one right there. I don't want to walk in there, guys, because, again, they have so lovingly divided everything. I don't want to be stepping anywhere where they thought the group that has come in and cleaned it, has cleaned it. I don't want to step in. And also, it's still a lot of ground cover, so I don't know what field stones are in there. And as much as I want to entertain you, I am not going to entertain you by tripping and falling.
No, been there, done that. We don't need to trip and fall.
No thanks.
Accidents.
So, but Mary's stone has been fixed, unfortunately not properly. And again, at the time it was fixed, I think somebody thought that was the proper way, and it's concrete. I think because on the back
we were
it's
looking
very
at the back,
bubbly and rough. It's not the way to do it now. It may have been
at the
time, but now it's not. We use epoxies and stuff like that. But
well, and I guess the question a lot of people have, well, if we see a broken stone, should we try and fix it, or what should we do?
Okay, so there are broken stones in here, and the person in me wants to fix it, but I am not trained to fix it, so I am not going to.
Yeah.
I would definitely look at finding somebody who knows the proper way. There are epoxies that can be used that are specifically for tombstones. But just remember, it is not permanent. None of these solutions are going to be permanent. A broken stone is always going to be a broken stone. And so
it's got the weak points in it.
It's got the weak points.
Yeah.
And it, you know, we've had strong winds or a tree. We're very wooded here. It's just going to come down and hit it, and it's unfortunately going to break again. And that's why you might see a lot of stones laying flat, and they're kind of put together, just because if you do lay them flat and they're put together, less likelihood of them breaking.
Well, trying to protect it longer, but
Yeah.
I mean, because I think like you see as you walk around any cemetery, is they're upright and there's nothing to hold it from falling backwards. Once it's weakened, it's always gonna have that weak
It's
point.
always going to have that weak point,
Yeah.
for sure. So, Theo Wells, who had married Mary, she dies in childbirth after the 7th child. He ends up marrying again and moving out to Texas, which is something you see a lot of people from Marietta and Cobb County doing. In the latter part of the 19th into the early part of the 20th century, just more opportunities.
Westward expansion.
Yeah, more land, all that kind of stuff. So you don't see Theo's family and other children buried here. They're buried out in Texas. So by the 1900 census, they're gone.
They're gone.
But what is fascinating in the 1900 census is William Fletcher's widow, Lucy, is listed in Roswell with the children.
Interesting.
And him.
But how does that work?
I don't know.
Did you catch it?
What do you mean, did I catch it?
I'm asking them.
Did they catch it? I don't know. He dies in 1888. But he's in the 1900 census.
That's a significant
time
frame.
Yes. 1890 census records, most of them don't exist because they burned in a fire. And I'm not just saying Georgia, like the vast majority of the country. So 1900, you go from 1880 to 1900. I'm thinking that maybe she said something to the census taker. Oh, I'm Mrs. William Fletcher. And then the census person started asking more questions and wrote him as living.
Oh, and not knowing. That
and not knowing or whatever. Like it's just a thing, a weird little. Because what are the odds she marries another man named W.F. Jackson?
Yeah, I found it doubtful.
Very.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, they're living in Roswell. Lucy and the children that are alive, they're living in Roswell and they're working in the cotton mills.
Oh, I know where some of those mills are.
I know where some of those mills are. So yeah, so that's kind of like the Jackson family in a little bit of a nutshell, and then it moves to the Wells, and then we have where's my notebook? Pages. The Wells. See, look, I have my little list. There's my Wells.
Yep, I've got that.
You know, you've got William Wilder, who I'm actually standing right by, and his wife Mary. They have Theodore. They have Lucy, they have Leela, and then they have Luella, which Leela will come across when we do Roswell Cemetery. She's over there. Luella decided to be buried in Cherokee County, and I'm like,
I can't. Cherokee? You can't go
I don't
there.
know. It's why I can't. Well, I could go over there, but I'm not gonna film.
That's far over there.
So let me take a step back and just show everybody William and Mary Wells. These two are actually looking real good.
They do. They've got some pretty, what do you call those, striations?
Yeah, the gradient in the marble. They have been cleaned, but there you guys kind of get a good view. They have been fixed. You can see the epoxy at the bottom because they are slatted into that base. And you guys can actually see a little bit better the inscriptions, but I have not read them because I can't read them and hold the iPad at the same time.
It says, rest mother, rest in...
I'm going to go peace or heaven. Let's go with that. Hold on. Let me see. Oops, wiggly. Okay. This brings up another point.
I'm going to have to go search it.
You go look.
I can't.
This is another point I'm going to say. If you cannot read this, and I've said this to you guys before, if you cannot read the inscription, do not spray shaving cream or use chalk anything like that on it. One suggestion is to hold up a reflective surface and use the sunlight to kind of bounce off and take a picture. Another, I'm not a huge fan of the paper and the rubbings just because it can be a little bit tricky. Now, if you're going to do it, use like a pencil, something that it can come off, but it's got to be paper and the pencil. Or you could take aluminum foil and really put it in there and get it in and read it. Anna's trying really hard to read it.
I am. Well, it says rest, mother, rest in quiet sleep. And then while,
let me see.
and I'm having trouble reading the rest.
Yeah, it's pretty faint on there. And it's hard with those striations.
There's a V. I can see that THEE.
All right, let me see. Let me see if I can read.
Trained eye.
Let me see if I can read it a little bit better.
Yeah, see if Christa's trained eye
my
can
trained
get it.
eye will be a little bit better. Hold on. Let's hit pause for. We're gonna stop so I can see if I can read it.
Yeah. Okay.
It took a little bit longer, but
We
you
got
guys
it.
will never know. Ever. And I did record it. So, William says, there we go. Do you remember?
It says, kind Father of love, thou art
At rest.
at rest. Are you sure?
Or at thy rest.
Thou art gone to thy rest.
Oh, there you go.
For farewell to bask. Uh-oh.
And the
joys of the blessed.
And blessed is spelled B-L-E-S-T.
Which took us a minute.
That
'cause
took
we
us a
thought
minute.
it was blast or something.
Okay, and then, sorry, the mother's, hers was a little bit trickier, so let me listen to that one. Oops.
Let's see if we can get it. Because it still says, rest, mother, rest in quiet peace, quiet sleep.
Yeah, I only want quiet sleep.
Doesn't every mother want quiet sleep?
Yes, and that's what she does. Nope, that's you.
That's me getting it wrong.
Rest, mother.
Oh, wait, hold on, I had it. It says rest, mother.
Rest, mother.
Rest.
Rest, mother. Rest in quiet sleep. While friends in sorrow, something thee weep.
I'm trying
Sorry,
to
I'm recording
repeat
this,
it to you, but I have a microphone on, everybody. I have a microphone on. Hopefully you heard that, but pretty much it is about her finally having quiet sleep.
Mother needing quiet sleep.
Mother needed quiet sleep, and that's very,
Yeah.
very good. So
No, sweet.
I'm going to walk us over to the Watson one real quick, because that one is the last burial we have, and it is actually it's not broken, it's damaged, and you guys will see that in just a second. So I'm going to turn it so you guys can see.
And you can see the pathway along.
Yeah, and excuse our stuff. We did put it on the wall, not anywhere else. You can see we've got some more. We're going to go over here. Hopefully you can see, because I can't see anything. There we go. Because the sun is bright.
The sun is coming back out again. Now this one, we think,
There it is. I'm not going to cut in front because it's a little deep over there. But it is the Watsons. Set that. There's the road for you.
you see how close it is?
It is very close.
And it's surrounded by a chain link fence.
Yeah, it's a good chain link. No, you're fine. That's the side Amy stands on most of the time. So that's
Hey.
we were opposite earlier.
We were
I was like,
switched.
this
It was
little, this
throwing
a
you
little
off.
weird.
Throwing you off.
A little
Okay.
weird. So the Watsons, it's just him and
switched
the
it.
Oh,
Sorry.
it's okay. Don't worry.
I
It's
messed
all right.
up
I don't
quite frequently.
expect. Amy doesn't fiddle with my papers, so don't worry.
Okay. There. Miss Fanny.
Miss Fanny, Mrs. Fanny, not Miss. Mrs.
Oh.
Mrs.
I apologize.
Mrs. Fanny, wife of J.M. Watson, died on last Thursday morning and was buried at Mount Beulah, and Elder S.J. Blackwell conducted the funeral services. So they did not have children. They were married for quite a long time, and then she died in 1893, in actually April 27th, 1893. We're getting close to her death day.
We are.
But this is April, by the way, but you're not seeing this till June. So she ends up dying, and what we do see in the newspapers, though, is at least 6 months prior she had been ill. So whatever had caused her death was a lingering illness. It was not sudden. It wasn't anything like that. And then her husband dies in 1924, and he is the last one buried here. And as I said before, probably one of the reason being the last one is because the church had moved or was about to move to the area where Rocky Mount Elementary and Kemp Cemetery is. You do see some family members of these families at the Kemp Cemetery, so I think that's where the connection is because of the church moving. So we're gonna get over to one more stop, which is the Stells, and I'm just gonna show you these. But the interesting part about the Stells is they're one of their grandchildren, they're one of their granddaughters that I wanted to mention, who is not buried here, but it's still a good little story.
It's a good story.
It is a good story. I like a good story.
Yeah.
So there's all the stuff. There's traffic. There they are.
So when they moved
Yeah.
churches, I mean, I think like most people, you're buying a plot for in the cemetery, and since he already had one for his wife, it was a pretty large plot, and he already had it marked out. It looks like they already had a double stone.
Yeah, they did have a double stone. I'm going to hold this for a second. They did have a double stone because... Scooch this way. Come closer.
I can't see. The sun is super bright, y'all.
That's okay. I can see that you're not in frame. I could see that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the wife died first, and his name was actually carved onto the stone. And that's why... was it Franklin Garrett? No, he has her listed. Oh, it's... you know what happened? He has the... Does he have the death date?
For
Oh,
Joseph,
sorry. I said 1924. I meant 1931 is when he died.
which is
Which is, again, with the church moving. But in Sarah's book, she doesn't have a death date. So that says to me that she recorded this cemetery before August of 1931, which she probably recorded in 1930. So that's fine. But so the Stells are here. We've got some Stells. You've got the wife. That's the wife, and then the husband. And then these have some initials, but I can't guarantee who they are. And then this one that's kind of pinky in color, it says Missouri Stell, but I was never able to find Missouri. Stell, not the state. I know where the state is, everybody. Don't try and question me. But I do, this is the only person I found a picture of, was Eliza Wells Stell.
Wells
Stell. There you go. We have a glare. They're not going to see the glare.
Okay, good.
That's the other part, Anna. If it may look awful to us, they can
It
probably
doesn't
see
look
it way better.
Good to know.
Way better. So, yeah, we have the Stells. And what's interesting about John Bailey and Eliza is they have a number of kids. And if you'll find that notebook paper.
Oh, okay.
They have a number of kids. And one of their granddaughters, named Emma, because it's going to get confusing in a second.
With the Stell?
Yes, thank you. So he marries Eliza Wells, who is actually, I believe, a sister of like Theodore and all that. It gets all confusing. I don't have all my charts proper like I should. But he marries...
she was Eliza. She's Abner Wells.
Okay, she's sister to Lucy and all of them too, and all that crap. All that stuff. All the things. So he marries, John marries Eliza. They have Mary, that's it. Mary marries Theo.
Gotcha.
And they have John, who's buried in Noonday, so I haven't gone there. They have William Henry, they have Dennis. Now, Dennis is actually buried in Sandy Plains Cemetery that Amy and I have already gone to. I did not mention them in that. But that marker is, Dennis Stell's marker is supposed to have a ceramic picture in it. And it didn't when we went.
Oh.
Somebody documented it in like 2008 with a picture.
So
and it didn't when Amy and I went last year, which would be 2021.
Oh, that's sad.
Leela, Joseph, James, and then James Abner, son of John Bailey Stell, has a daughter named Emma. James Abner is buried in Marietta City Cemetery. And next to him is a little girl named Dorothy Goomis. And I thought to myself, why is this child buried next to a Stell?
Yeah.
Here we go. Emma Stell, daughter of James Abner, granddaughter of John Bailey, who is here,
Mm-hmm.
married a man named George Goomis. You heard that
Yeah.
name?
Sounds, again, vaguely familiar.
So if you do not know who George Goomis is, long story short, Greek immigrant, first lived in Thomasville, Georgia, which we have been to,
Yes.
very south Georgia, came to the metro Atlanta area, fought in World War I, is Cobb County's most decorated veteran, and after World War I, he received the Croix de Guerre and all these awards, many of them. In 1923, he marries Emma Stell. I'm thinking because that was after grandfather died
Oh.
in 1922, because it was a bit of a story that a Greek immigrant was marrying a white Baptist woman.
Yeah.
So
It's
it
a
was
little bit of
a little
cultural
bit of a
differences.
story. But what was even more interesting, it was a double wedding.
With who?
Here we
Okay,
go,
here's
everybody.
the intrigue. I
Here's
love
the
it.
intrigue. Okay. Emma
Okay.
marries George. Etta Stell marries Roy Martin. How are Emma and Etta related?
I don't know. Are they sisters? No.
The first thought would be twins, right?
Twins.
Like totally.
Emma and
that's
Etta.
Emma and Etta. That's where you go. No. Emma is the aunt of Etta. So they were only 6 years apart, though. Again,
I was gonna
but
ask,
not
like,
really uncommon.
That's true.
Because
You've got
especially
older.
in families where you have a lot of kids, like the oldest might be 20 years older than the youngest, and
Yeah.
already having kids with his or her respective spouse or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a double wedding of aunt and niece.
That is interesting.
So yeah, I was like, but you know, it's funny. I don't have a picture of Emma. I don't have a picture with me of George Goomis, but Anna and I have both seen him. He's a looker.
Yeah.
He's a good-looking dude.
good-looking
so I'm
guy.
like, I'm thinking she was really pretty, and I haven't found a picture. But anyway,
So if you have a picture,
yeah, if anybody has a picture, Emma and George have a child named Dorothy, and Dorothy dies young, and Dorothy is buried in the city cemetery next to her grandfather. That's looping it all back. See, connections. I can
Connections.
make all of them.
I mean, it's pretty incredible, the family connections between, and then connecting them through the cemeteries and through the people buried here and why they're buried in different spots. So,
Yes, and it goes back to also, you're talking 8.5 miles away.
Yeah.
In the time of wagons and early cars, getting to downtown Marietta would have taken a little while. But downtown Marietta was much bigger than what downtown even Roswell is.
Yeah.
So that, even though Roswell may be a little bit closer, going to Marietta is probably much more profitable for the businesses, because we have farmers and shoemakers in this group, so no real like heavy trade. So let's put that one back. But okay, so we've gone through this whole kind of cemetery. Again, it's very small people wise, but there is an actual other element to this story that I was finding when I was coming along this research, and it's towards the back. It's documentation of the preservation of this cemetery. Now, for most people who do cemetery work or research, we can start with that one in just a minute. But this one's actually 1965. This is not preservation of the cemetery, but this is a dedication of a historical marker to be held on the site of Rocky Mount Church on Rocky Mount Road. The church was originally constituted as Mount Beulah Primitive Baptist Church and was located on Shallowford until shortly after the turn of the century, when it was relocated to Rocky Mount Road between Trickham and Kemp Cemetery. Pretty sure there's a school there right now. You want to know how I know that?
How?
I went to that school.
Hey, see, connections, bringing it back around. It's your alma mater?
It is my alma mater from 3rd through 5th grade.
Hey.
Not all of it. All right,
Yeah.
so let me grab this. So find a grave. You know, they'll list people in the cemeteries, but you can see this one right here. I did that. This is a volunteer run website, which to me, you got to take this information with a grain of salt. Just like I said, the 1900 census said William Fletcher was alive, William
Yeah.
Fletcher Jackson was alive in 1900. It wasn't. You've got to take things with a grain of salt. This person, whoever it was, said that Bessie Jackson Royal was buried in the Mount Beulah Cemetery. She's listed as this. There's a couple of things that set off some warning lights for me. First off, Bessie Jackson Royal is an African American woman. Now, that is not to say that it wouldn't have been possible that an African American person was buried here. Not saying that. But when I looked at the death certificate, which is actually this little image here, yes, I made it bigger, I can see it better. It states place of death,
Where's that?
or place of burial, Marietta, Georgia.
Okay. So we're not in Marietta.
But vast majority of time when they put Marietta, Georgia, they often mean the Marietta City Cemetery. Just like they'll put,
That's interesting.
like Kennesaw, that'll mean the
Like
Kennesaw City, like that's
It's like shorthand.
Yeah, it is shorthand because that was the main cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. If it was Mount Beulah, which I do have some, it'll say Mount Beulah, or it'll say Kemp, or it'll say whatever. So Bessie Jackson Royal, I believe, is in the Marietta City Cemetery. She is not actually listed in our grave marker listing, but there are a lot of Jacksons there. I just haven't gone back to
See if she
to
fits in.
kind of connect it back up. So just remember when doing this, take it with a grain of salt, but be super thankful that the people the volunteers who have been doing this, taking pictures, it's super important on the preservation side, because as I said with Dennis Stell, that image on the grave in porcelain or ceramic was not there when Amy and I went, but when somebody took a picture and put it on Find a Grave, it was.
Yeah. Less than 10 years.
Less than 10, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, so you have all of this information, and then we're in this area of development. Yeah, there's just those two.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
So just before I moved here in like July of 1990, they did a student program, this article, I'm not going to read all of it, where they kind of came in and students cleared the debris from the Mount Beulah Primitive Baptist Church Cemetery, abandoned about 1920, and they kind of they called them Aspiring Indiana Jones.
Inspire. Okay. Not.
Yes, we all know Indy says that belongs in a museum, but I would say it's a little bit more than this. But they have students come and they clear and they kind of not get this layout, but at least keep everything from getting swallowed up by the earth, in essence. Because this property was actually deemed Gordy property. There's a Gordy Parkway down here. Gordy actually relates to Frank Gordy, who owned the Varsity. Hey, what do you have? What do you have?
What do you have? I was just about to say that. What do you have?
What do you have? What do you have?
Oh, I want a varsity. I haven't had varsity in forever.
But what was actually also very interesting is the reason that they needed to come do this is because a developer wanted to build a $100 million mixed-use complex that included a 700 home community of houses, cluster, and townhomes, a 100-bed hospital, office buildings, shopping centers, restaurants, gas stations.
Wow.
Many of those happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know if these 700 home complex happened, but there are a lot of houses around here. And we don't have a 100-bed hospital, but you do have an urgent care, and then there's a CHOA facility. So you do have those kind of things. Those kind of things.
So a lot of this did come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they were very smart and had students find this, keep track of it, so that it could be fenced off. And technically, it's a green space that you can come into and just enjoy. But then they did in 1995 another kind of adopt a cemetery program through the Cobb County Cemetery Preservation Commission. There you go, I got it all. And so they did another one, and it does have it did have an adopter. I don't know if it still does, but I'm guessing somebody does come out here at least, let's say maybe twice a year, to take care of it. But if you're interested in the whole idea of adopt a cemetery, they still do this program. You have to go to the county's website and then go to the Cobb County Cemetery Preservation Commission's
We'll
page.
put a link.
You will remember to put
I
a
will
link.
remember to put a link.
I won't remember to put a link. I'm thrilled that I didn't say during this video a million times, I'll post a picture of that later.
Actually,
I do that a lot, and I never
post a
fulfill
picture.
that. So I can hear it. That's why I keep turning around. But I don't know if you guys really
y'all
can
might not
hear
be
it.
able to. It's just an old truck.
It's just an old truck. So we have walked this very small cemetery. If you feel like at a Target one day, heck, you know what? You could even put out a little picnic blanket with your Chick-fil-A in the walkway, not in the graves, and eat your lunch. It's
Yeah.
very pleasant.
That's a
It's very
fairly
pleasant.
common
It
thing
is-
to happen,
is.
historically speaking.
It is.
I know a lot of people get weirded out about it, but
I don't.
cemeteries are peaceful places, respectful places. You can be respectful.
Yep. Just
and-
pick up your trash when you're done.
Yeah,
There's the county.
I
You
know.
must
We
have heard
were.
me
We
talking
both were
about
like,
them.
"Are they coming?"
No,
No.
we're almost done anyway.
We're
but
almost done.
okay, Anna, this was your first experience.
Okay. Yeah.
How you feel?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely have learned a lot. I didn't know a lot about the people
That's
here
okay.
and the connections between them and Marietta and how close it really is. It feels so much further. 8 miles.
Yeah, it's only about 8.5 miles. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
So.
a lovely little spot, and just trying to remember, like, just doing what we can to keep these people and the cemetery looking good. Yeah.
So Anna will actually join me on the next cemetery we're going to do, which is going to be Dawson Cemetery. So that one will be a part of this season. I don't know if it's next week's or if it will be a little bit later. But she's going to join me for that one as well. And then she's going to join me in the fall. I'm putting it out there in the universe so
Yeah,
it'll
so it'll
happen, for Roswell cemeteries.
Yeah.
So we will do there's 3 in Roswell that Sarah does in her book. So we will do those. But so again, if anybody has left stars, thank you so much. If you feel inclined to put in stars, again, thank you. We really, really do appreciate it. We will be back. I'm going to say next week.
We're, again, putting it out in the universe. Like, we're
Going to
gonna
put
be
it out
back.
in the universe.
Yeah. And hey, come up to the museum, say hi to us. We'd love to see you.
You can say hi to her. I don't
Say
work.
hi to
I
me.
work downstairs. Or
Yeah.
you can say hi to Amy since you guys.
This is true.
I don't think they missed you. Or not you. Her.
Yeah.
I thought she was Amy for half a second because they're nice ones and I'm not.
No. Well, I will say that Amy and I do get confused
You do.
for each other quite often. Amy, Anna, it
do.
just happens. So
That's okay. But Anna's going to join me again. Amy will be in some, I promise. But it's probably going to be a little bit closer to the ones we do around the square, maybe not the cemeteries itself. But we will be back for another installment, and we hope you enjoyed it and you come out and visit. Come and visit at the center.